What's going on, everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode, and in today's video we're taking a look at one of the Jack Boys, aka Don Toliver himself, and some very dope merch in support of his upcoming album, Hardstone Psycho. Now before we get started, I want to give a special shout out to the homie Stream Beats, who's been cooking up the beats for these videos, so make sure you guys check him out. And while you're here, you might as well drop a like and subscribe and join our free Discord to stay up to date with the latest and the greatest. Shout out to all of my chefs in there. Now today's video takes us back just a couple of months ago to February of 2024, in which we saw Don Toliver, one of the original Jack Boys, release the first lead single titled Bandit for his upcoming fourth studio album titled Hardstone Psycho. And as you guys can see from the following aesthetics and visuals, it definitely looks like Don is taking us into an all-new journey with some familiar rockstar vibes and a heavy emphasis on biker and biker gang culture. And within the last week or so, Don would also go on to drop another song titled Attitude, with the following merch bundles dropped in support, of course, for this upcoming album. Now, before I even dive into this Hardstone Psycho merch collection, the first thing I want to point out is that it definitely screams rock and metal influence, and I don't know what it is in particular, but something about these pieces and this overall aesthetic immediately takes my mind to the legend Stone Cold Steve Austin here, and it might just be the leather vest that he made popular, but you'll definitely see some pieces throughout here that definitely have some kind of resemblance, so let me know in the comments if you guys are picking up the kind of connection I'm putting down here. Now to start off this Hardstone collection, we of course have this Thunder Road box set with this really dope graphic tee, and it immediately brings my mind to Cactus Jack or Mankind, who is of course another WWE legend, who also carried around this weapon called Barbie, which looks very familiar to that graphic that's used. Now in general, I do want to point out that this box set is very affordable and reasonably priced at $35, and in addition to the tee itself, you're also receiving a physical CD copy of the album after its release this upcoming June 14th, as well as an exclusive collector's edition box, along with designs that are exclusive only to this box set, which honestly I think is pretty cool and adds another layer of value to this collection. And also, along with something else that I missed while first visiting the website myself, this collection also comes with a very dope and limited edition patch, which you can of course apply to a hat, a vest, a backpack, or whatever it is it may be. And while you may be thinking, dude, it's just a patch, I think it's a cool piece of merch that you typically see reserved for the rock and metal shows, so I think it's cool that Don is embracing it and kind of bringing it over into the hip-hop aesthetic as well. And given that this entire collection is inspired by the biker and biker gang aesthetic, I think the use of patches is perfect, as many gangs use them themselves, as you guys can see in the following pictures. Now next up in this Hardstone collection, we of course have the following Twin Peaks box set, which features this all new green design, as well as some all new exclusives only for this box set. Personally, I think that this green is pretty hard, and the use of the symbol here on the back is definitely relative to Harley Davidson culture, so if you're familiar with the brand or grew up around bikes at all, you'll probably recognize some of these themes. And while I understand this whole rockstar and biker gang aesthetic is not for everyone, one thing I do think all fans should appreciate is the shipping situation for this collection, which is as follows. For the first time, we have an artist actually advertising that the merch is for a pre-order, and they mention that they expect these pieces to ship this upcoming June 2024. And if you're watching this video and thinking to yourself, well dude, it's just a pre-order, what's the big deal? The big deal is the fact that Don, or at least his team, is actually communicating the fact that this is a pre-order and not to have any high expectations for when you can expect shipping, which is something his label mate and label owner, aka Mr. Travis Scott or LaFlame, should definitely take into consideration, given that he's one of the worst offenders with shipping times, probably only second to Kanye. Now to follow up on the previous collection, we of course have the following Dead Man's Canyon box set, which honestly has a really dope graphic, and if it wasn't sold out in my size at the time of this video, I'd probably considered picking this one up. And again, I just can't help but think Stone Cold here has some kind of influence on the art direction or creative direction on this collection. And last but not least, to close out this Hardstone collection, we have the following Promised Land box set, which again features its own exclusive designs as well as branded patch, which I think is pretty raw. And to be honest, while not exactly the same, I can't help but feel some type of Travis Scott Utopia influence, at least on the aesthetic of this last piece. And if you're still waiting on any of your bundles from that collection, let us know in the comments. Now, in addition to the previous box collections we just saw, we also have the addition of this vinyl, which I think would be a great pickup and is very reasonably priced at $25 instead of the $40 which many artists have seemingly started to do, which I think is pretty lame. So shout out to my boy Don one time. And if collecting vinyl isn't necessarily your thing, Don would also add the physical CD available on the website for a cool $5, which again is very reasonably priced given how crazy and expensive most of these releases are. Now, with all that being said, I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised with this Hardstone Psycho collection, and I wouldn't be surprised if Don ends up releasing several other waves once this album finally releases this upcoming June 14th. And while Don's been busy at work crafting this new album, I again want to give him and his team credit for communicating at least on the shipping situation, as that's something we have never seen from Travis Scott and his team, so shout out to you again. Now, with all this new music, I do want to believe that we will receive some new Jack Boys music in the future, and hopefully Travis and him have something cooked up for us very soon. Now, another thing I wanted to point out that I find pretty dope is the fact that this Hardstone collection is obviously a departure in aesthetic and style from the previous album, as you guys can see here. So I think it's really dope to see the evolution and an artist as big as him taking a risk, as some people might be afraid to alienate fans. Now, in wrapping up today's video, I wanted to share the following tweet I found while doing research for this video, as I think it's pretty cool that Don is also a fan of Akira, as none other than Kanye, aka the GOAT, was also heavily influenced, so I'm curious if we'll end up seeing any other overlap or influences throughout this project. And while speaking of Ye, I again think it's cool how artists such as himself and Don are going against the grain and going counterculture and repping things like Burzum and metal bands like this, as many genres tend to gatekeep, especially in the metal community, so I can only imagine what the old school biker gangs think of someone like Don wearing the leather. And while a bit unrelated, I also wanted to share the following album art for the upcoming Homicide Gang album, which shows the influence of this biker gang and rock culture. As you can see, these guys are also wearing leathers similar to Don and the aesthetic that we're seeing for this album. Now, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Personally, as someone that grew up a metalhead and someone that grew up around these cultures, I personally find this collection super hard, but I understand if it's not for everyone. If nothing more, I think it's very reasonably priced, and I'm glad that they addressed the shipping as a pre-order instead of having fans guess whether or not their merch was arriving within the advertised 2 to 4 weeks. Kanye. Now, with all that being said, let us know in the comments if you ended up picking up any of these pieces, if you're excited for this upcoming Hardstone Psycho album, and what you guys think about the collection overall. As always, guys, thank you so much for cooking with the kitchen. Remember to stay safe out there, and as always, remember, it's lit straight up, and peace.